Welcome to Government Contracting Academy, weekly free training with Randall Wimmer. Randall, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, I'm the founder of Government Contracting Academy. I've spent about 25 years in the federal government contracting industry. And to be honest with you, Jonathan, I think today's topic is going to be one of the most timely topics we've ever done. And so I'm going to steal your thunder, and I'm going to introduce the topic, and that is all of these federal government employees who are being terminated during this whole Doge, rampage across the federal government. What should they do? Well, I tell you what, I have a great recommendation where I believe that their termination for the federal government employment could actually be the best thing that's ever happened to them and their family. And that is launch a federal government contracting company. And the reason why I would say that is because the federal government contracting industry is about this much different than every other industry out there. And yet that much difference is what keeps about 95% of all U.S. companies from pursuing federal government contracts. Now think about that. That much knowledge is what's keeping 95% of all U.S. companies from pursuing federal government. If you are a federal government employee, a former one, guess what? You understand the culture. You understand how the federal government contracting industry works from the government side, which is very similar to the GovCon side. You have a network of government employees who are in a position to can really help you and give you some insights. So you got about half of that knowledge, and you are better positioned than, I would say, 95% of everybody else in the world to launch a federal government contracting company. You have the competitive advantage.
Already moving in that direction, or already understanding.
Already. And the deal is here's the reality. Historically, about 50% of all government employee positions that are eliminated, they show up as government contracting positions down the road a little bit. So you could be bidding, your company could be bidding on your last job. And so nobody's going to have more insights than you do. So I tell you, it's the same way with veterans. Veterans are the same way. It's like, and the reason why the veterans, they have such a similar situation as former government employees is because, let's be honest with ourselves, that the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room, in federal government contracting is DOD. And who understands the culture better than veterans? Who understands the DOD culture? Who understands how DOD works better than people who've actually supported DOD? Who's received the best DOD training in the world? Veterans. Same way, like I said, with federal government employees. It's like, if you're a federal government employee, who has received the best federal government training in the world? Federal government employees. They have the insight. They understand how the federal government thinks. They understand the mission of their agencies, and it's like I said, it's a competitive advantage that just dwarfs all their competition. It is the most strongest competitive advantage in the world. It's better than being a Harvard MBA. If you're a former, if you're a veteran or if you're a former federal government employee, you have that powerful of an advantage over everybody else.
I think you touched on something. I would like you to elaborate a little bit more. Speaking to the Doge readjustments, however it was, the people that might be looking for a new job, you spoke to that. You might, I can't remember how you said it. You might be in a position to bid on the contract that you used to work for. That's probably going to perk up the ears of our audience today.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If you think about it, and I'm not going to get political. I think we can all agree that there is a lot of things that happened in the federal government that was kind of wasteful, that we didn't necessarily. It was meaningful, but it wasn't as meaningful as other things. For example, like keeping your own money and buying food for your family. So the deal is we all know that there was some stuff that needed to be cut. However, there's nobody that I don't think too many people are going to argue that they've cut too much, or they didn't take enough time to analyze what really should have been cut and what shouldn't have been cut. And what they've done is they just cut really deep, and they've done it with a chainsaw instead of a micrometer. They didn't really, they haven't had the time to do it. So there are a lot of things that was cut that really shouldn't have been cut. Those things are coming back, and but they're not going to come back as federal government employees. 99% of the time, and the reason why is because nobody's ever going to admit that. Nobody's ever going to say like, "Hey, we cut these 10,000 employees from this agency, but we really needed about 4,000 of them." Like, wow,
Turns out they were essential.
overdid it. But they'll never going to say, "Well, hey, we're going to hire these federal government employees back." They're never going to do that. It's a different ledger. It really is, and they're not going to eat crow like that. So these positions are most likely going to come back as government contracting positions. And if you were just terminated from a government agency, I guarantee you there's going to be growth in the federal government contracting world. And there's nobody more prepared to pursue those opportunities than the people who literally were just doing them. And now the deal is you can have perfect knowledge of whatever the requirements are. I used to tell people, I say, like, you can have the perfect scratch for their itch, and you'll never be able to work out a deal with the federal government. Why? Well, there's that whole contracting and proposal writing thing in the middle. Unless you know how to write a proposal effectively that can score high, your knowledge is not the most important thing. You've got to be able to write a highly scored proposal. Now, the good thing about this is, and nobody believes it, and this is why really clever small business owners can grow like crazy, is not about how much knowledge you have about the specific, job being done, the specific mission, the specific solution. It's about how well your proposal scores. And the actual solution, believe it or not, is only a tiny chunk of that. So now, but that tiny chunk is really important because that's what you're bringing to the table as a former federal government employee. You know that chunk really well. And the great news about that is you can very easily manufacture a winning proposal, by scoring high on the other sections. It's not hard. It's not hard to do. You just got to know how to do it.
I think you just touched on this. I'm going to ask anyway, or I'm going to set this situation up anyway. So the inside knowledge that knowing the customer well enough that you can speak to their pain points that might not be explicitly or specifically spoken to in the proposal, like culture,
absolutely.
Who knows it better than the people that were in there?
That's right. I tell you what, here's the deal. If you actually, it all comes down to the grading rubric. Every federal government contract is graded the same way across the entire federal government, and they have a rubric. And demonstration of understanding is one of those things that they look at every single time. Risk is the other thing. Those are the big things, plus the technical solution. So you got your understanding, you've got your being low risk, and then you actually have your technical piece of it. Are you technically compliant? Those are the three things. Now, there's actually a fourth thing to it also, and that is do you provide any strengths? Do you have any evaluated strengths? Now, what's an evaluated strength? An evaluated strength is something that wasn't specifically asked for that you provide that adds additional value to the government. So those are the four major components of winning a bid, any bid. So if, when you're talking about demonstrated understanding, nobody's going to be able to write to that better than the people who just came out of that office. I guarantee that. That is like, you understand the culture. And by saying that, and by writing about that culture, you understand what happens when the mission doesn't get done. You understand where the bodies are buried. You understand what the hot buttons are, where the government is struggling to be able to to be able to meet their requirements. You understand all of that stuff, and you know a lot more than what you think you know. And that's what I tell people. It's not until you actually sit down in front of a piece of paper and you start categorizing, a proposal, and you can say, okay, what do I know about this? And you're like, oh man, if you don't. If you talk about the mission, like it was like, well, I can talk all day about the mission. Then you start talking about from a risk standpoint, what happens if the contractor doesn't know how to do that? Oh, wow, then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and they're all bad things. So those are the things that you say that you will prevent because of your knowledge, of those requirements. And again, I would say you've got about 1/4 of the pie right there, the winning proposal pie, by understanding your organization that you're coming from. If you understand the culture, the mission, the repercussions, their hot buttons, their leadership's views and perspectives, that can go a long way. In fact, this is what I do. And every single proposal that I write, assuming I got enough page count, to do that. Sometimes the government writes, really bad requests for proposal. They don't give you nearly enough page count. But if I got I will make room to do this. Every single section of my proposal leads with a demonstration of my understanding. I write about the organization that is releasing the request for a proposal. I would say it's at least a quarter of a page. I put their logo there, and I write about their mission, their culture, their hot buttons, their challenges. What happens if the mission isn't supported properly? I write about all of that because I want them to know that this proposal is about them, and I get them. And if you do that, again, I would say that's half the battle, but it's probably about 1/4 of the battle. And people who are walking out of the federal government, they nail that part. They nail it. And the other 3 parts are the easy part. You can engineer that. So it's really hard to get that 1/4.
I'm picturing it. I'm picturing it kind of like insider trading. That's bad. That's whatever. Kind of.
Well, here's the deal. Well, Jonathan, I want to prove that you're correct. 95% of all contracts are ongoing efforts, ongoing services. Let's just say, if you're in the Pentagon, you got an IT services contract. It's an ongoing service. It's not like you're going to stop using computers, at the end of that contract. Of course you're going to do it. So you're just going to recompete the contract. So when there's an incumbent contractor, a contractor who's currently in place, they win 70% of the time. 70% of the time. Yeah. They have a probability of winning 70%. Now, everybody else who's bidding only has a 30% chance. So the reason why that's combined, you know what I mean? So, that incumbent, why are they so successful? Because they're actually in the government organization supporting them as contractors. Now, that's as contractors. We're not invited in behind the closed door meetings. We're kept at an arm's length as contractors. If you're a formal government employee, you know so much more than a government contractor does, because you're honestly, they kick the contractors out. They have government only meetings. You're getting government only, emails. In fact, your email supporting the organization has got a .ctr, on it. So everybody knows not to include your email on sensitive government material. So it's the amount of knowledge that a government employee leaves with makes them so incredibly valuable and gives them such an incredible advantage over other GovCon startup owners.
Let's keep playing with this. So you just found out that you're going to need to find a new position, or finally take that entrepreneurship journey that's been an inkling, in the back of your mind forever. If today's the day you take that leap, what's step one? What's the first part?
Well, I tell people to get a day job, because the federal government contracting industry, it's a slow burn. It really is. It's not what I call the gig economy, where you need to make, I need to make $40 extra cash a week, and I'm going to moonlight doing something on it. It's not like that. Government contracting is a slow burn. It may take a few years to really get a lot of traction, but it has the potential to make generational wealth. This is playing the lottery. You know what I mean? It's a different than selling lemonade at a lemonade stand where you want to make. It's a difference between you can go out there and very quickly sell lemonade. Buy a lemonade stand, build one or whatever. You can go out in front of your house, in your front lawn, and you can sell lemonade. Now you can start doing that today. You can't start taking revenue from the federal government today. It takes a little time, because there's that whole bid and proposal process, and it takes time. So I tell people that you want to have income coming in, because that establishes your runway. Now, most companies fail because they can't do it long enough. Government contracting is a marathon. It really is. And you don't know when Lady Luck is going to find you. It could be at mile number 1, which is doubtful, but it could be. It could be mile number 12. It could be mile number 17. It could be mile number 22. It could be mile number 24. It could be at the finish line, 26.2. You got to be in the race long enough for Lady Luck to pop out and find you. If you're not in the race long enough, it doesn't matter how great of a company you had the potential to be. Lady Luck was hanging out at mile number 16 and you quit at mile number 12. So you got to stay in the race. I have a saying I tell my kids, you only lose when you quit. As long as you don't quit, you're still in the game. You still have that probability of win that's right there in front of you. But you only lose when you quit. So that's the very first thing is get the day job, whatever it is. And then what I would do is I would start marketing myself to the business development, executives from companies that used to support your organization. Why? Because they're going to, they're still bidding. They want to win. They want to win. They want to win. Now, this is what you can offer them. Now, you need to offer them both things. There's really three things that you have to do. So I'm going to tell you the three things. I was going to combine them, but I'm going to tell you specifically. One, you got to show that you're a low risk company. The second thing you got to do is you got to show them that you can add value to their bid. That's easy to do. You can get that with corporate credentials. You get a couple corporate credentials for your company. It puts you in the top 0.1 percentile of all U.S. companies with respect to corporate maturity, and therefore you are low risk. So getting corporate credentials will eliminate those two things. Now, this is the advantage that you have over everybody else. You can add value to the bid, and this is how you add value to the bid. You know the organization that they're bidding on better than anybody in their organization. Why? Because you just came from it. Now, that is a powerful thing to have in your, that's a powerful, arrow to have in your quiver to say like, hey, I can help you write the proposal because I understand the mission, the organization, the people, the personalities involved better than anybody else.
I was there.
I was there. I know where the bodies are buried. I know where the coffee pot is. It's like, that stuff. And that's really, really powerful. That's really powerful. So, because at the end of the day, these big companies, they don't need small businesses. They're forced to use us because of the small business set aside program. But when you have a small business that comes along and you could say, because of my knowledge, you need me, you go to the front of the line, and you've got some serious negotiating power because they got to give up to 30% of that contract value to small businesses. And, when you're valuable because of your knowledge, your negotiation can go, you've got a lot of power with your negotiation and you can get a bigger chunk of that 30% than what you normally would have.
You just touched on differentiators. That might be worth diving into a little bit more. Like this being somebody that was on contract, then forming a company and bidding for that contract is a differentiator, right? That inside knowledge, it sets you apart, and similar to set aside.
Oh, absolutely. Because like right now, there's over 100,000 small businesses who are registered to do business with the federal government. Over 100,000. That's a lot. But if you're just one of a handful of people that says, and I know that organization, and I know it better than anybody else because I just came from it. What a competitive advantage over the other, 99,999, other small business owners, when you can say that you've got firsthand experience within that organization. You can pick up the phone and you can have the government customer talking to you because they're your old golfing buddy. You know what I mean? It's just like, say, hey, Bob, hey, I see you got this big bid coming up, here in a few months. Hey, let's go play some golf. You know what I mean? And that's how the game is played. And they'll say, oh yeah, it's coming out. It's, our budget is, yeah, it's going to be, and they may, the deal is they end up telling you stuff that they probably shouldn't have. And they don't even mean to. They're just saying like, yeah, it's a $50 million, contract we got coming up. So now you know what the bogey is. You got to come in under 50 million. If you bid over 50 million, they can't even afford you. So that's the kind of insight that you can get, when you're one of their former colleagues or you're one of their friends and you're still hanging out with, your network of people, your network of friends and colleagues. It's not like that goes away. your job changes, but the people you play golf with, the people your kids hang out with, all that kind of stuff, all that's the same. So, you have access to do just incredible business intelligence, gathering about that opportunity.
Yeah.
The other thing too is you can get information like this right here. Well, first of all, you don't even need to go out and get this information. You already know this. You already know what companies that the government likes or dislikes in your organization. So, like, this organization, we hate Booz Allen because, I can say that because there's a lot of organizations that, they love Booz Allen, but some of them hate it, Booz Allen. You know that you don't want to go with Booz Allen. Or if you're in an organization that loves Booz Allen, you want to find Booz Allen and you want to, partner up with them as quickly as possible. Or Northrop Grumman or Lockheed, whoever those are, who are going to be the preferred bidders. You just know from day one. You have such a competitive advantage. You really do. Even more so than veterans do. Veterans have a general advantage. They understand the culture. They understand the mission. They understand that when a general officer or a flag officer walks into a room, you stand up. They get the general stuff. But a former federal government employee, you get the specifics. You get the details, and the details are just so important in a bid and proposal effort.
So to recap, step one, get a job.
Get money coming in.
Even.
Yeah.
Step two.
Step two, do what I call massive outreach. You launch your company on the side, and now that you have a company, you target all of those business development executives from the companies that supported your former federal government organization. And
the GCA helps people launch that company, right? Just speaking
absolutely.
To that. Okay.
Yeah.
Contracting Academy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is what government contracting does. I guess this is a plug for what we do.
Well,
we are designed to take a person who's dreaming of launching a company, and we walk them through the process all the way through launching it, getting traction, growing it, ultimately to selling it. And, we cover it from beginning to end, like, hey, what kind of company should I launch? What market should I be in? Which market's best aligned with my goals, all the way down to, talking about things like when you get around to selling your company and the pitfalls to avoid there. And we cover everything. It's about 175 lessons. And, I keep on expanding it because there's, new, things coming up. For example, the module that we're incorporating now deals with AI, artificial intelligence. And like, how do you use AI to grow your company? Well, I tell you how not to do it. How not to do it is you ask AI to write your proposal. You'll never win if AI is writing your proposal. It's just a fact. It'll read well, and you're going to be smitten with it. You're going to say, hey, wow, it reads really well. It sounds good, but it's going to score poorly. It's going to score horribly because AI doesn't even come close to knowing how to write a highly scoring, proposal. But if you use AI in your proposal writing process, you can quadruple your bid and proposal output. So if you're bidding on one major proposal every 8 months, now you're able to do it in, every 2 months. So that means you have a chance of becoming a multimillionaire every 2 months. That's how AI can change your life in the federal government. So we keep on adding more and more, modules and lessons regarding, new topics like that. So every single time I'm asked for something that I don't have a lesson for, I create a lesson for it. So it's, like I said, designed to take you from cradle all the way to market exit.
We're in our last 6 minutes here, and I cut you off as you were finishing up her describing step number 2. Before you jump back into that, you just touched back to the opening of this our theme here, like that inside now. AI does not have that inside knowledge. AI does not have that personal. I was there. I saw it.
Yeah, it doesn't know that the director of that organization really hates Booz Allen. It doesn't know that. You know what I mean? You do, because you know that the director was fired by Booz Allen 20 years ago, and she's held a personal grudge against him.
That matters. Human beings.
That matters more than anything. Yeah. So, but yeah, that is stuff that it's AI can help you do a lot of research. Generic general research and things like that. But the personal knowledge, the stuff that you can't put a finger on, the intangibles of it, that is the most powerful thing. It's just like when you're hiring somebody, you want to know that they're a nice person, a polite person, a kind person, somebody who's willing to give back to the community, somebody who has a lot of character. Well, none of that shows up on a resume. Your resume just has corporate credentials, your personal credentials and your work history. It doesn't show that you have character, but yet that is the most important thing when you're applying for a new opportunity, is those intangibles. And it's just things that just can't be, that can't be documented on a website. And that's the stuff that you really know. You have access to that. The director of this organization, this person, they have a vision of taking where their organization is and making it, 50% more efficient. So they're going to be more open to an innovative, a more expensive but innovative solution than they would, than another type of agency director. Conversely, you can have an agency director saying like, "Hey, I got a charter to save money." So what they're willing to, that you could say, well, you're not going to get any frills from us. You're going to get exactly what you need and no more, and we're going to be the lowest bidder. Completely different bid strategies. More expensive innovation is going to save you money down the road versus we're going to save you some money now. And what's most important to your organization now. There's no guessing, because everybody's sitting. You got all these business. I used to do this. I used to work with L3 and Unisys, two multi-billion-dollar organizations, and I was a capture executive for each one of them. And I used to sit, these conference rooms, and we used to strategize. And you could say, well, the first fork in the road that we have is are we going to go with low cost, or are we going to go with high innovation? What does the customer want? And just having that knowledge itself was priceless, because otherwise, right there, you're going to nullify your bid immediately. Because if you don't know that, and if you give them high innovation when they don't have the budget, now all of a sudden, you've just lost. Or if you give them low budget when what they really wanted to do is to take their organization to the next level, of operations and efficiency, well, you're going to lose because you're business as usual. They don't want that. They want an innovation. So, that's the first decision point that almost every single, large business bidder, they have to face. What are we going to do?
So to recap, we're in our last 2 minutes here. To recap, step 1, get a job, cover the bills, stop triage kind of situation. Yeah. And then step 2, government contracting academy. So it's something to stabilize that formation portion, right?
Yeah, I would say step number 2 is definitely launch a federal government contracting company. And now you're doing that on the side. You're perfectly legal to do that as a non-federal government employee. Now you can do that. When you were in the government, you could not be a government employee and also having, be moonlighting as a government contracting company owner. You couldn't do that. So launch a company, and then you got to differentiate your company. If you differentiate your company with getting corporate credentials, you will eliminate, like 99% of your competition by being the lower risk, more mature business owner. And then ultimately what you want to do is you want to do, massive outreach. And we can show you ways where you can reach out to literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of business development executives from those large prime bidders that were supporting your organization. And you need to put you and your company in front of them. And you've got one of the best selling points in the world, like saying like, hey, I just came from that agency. I have a lot of knowledge. Not only is my company an ISO 9001 quality management system certified company and an ISO 27001 information security management system certified, company, but we are, but I just came from that organization. I have a ton of knowledge.
I play golf.
Yeah. I play golf with with the customer. So that is boom, done. Let's talk. Name your price. It really is. It's that powerful of a discriminator when you have inside knowledge like that. And it's not inside. It's all legitimate. It's all legal. I'm not encouraging people to do anything illegal. It's just like you're really knowledgeable of that organization and agency. Boom. So, leverage that for business success. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's what you should do. You should become extremely knowledgeable about whatever your target markets are. You just happen to walk in on day one of your entrepreneurship, having that knowledge already in your hip pocket. That's, like I said, what a competitive advantage that is.
That is, we are at time now. What a great way to end this. The summation, if you find yourself looking for new opportunities now's a good time. You're lucky. It's an opportunity.
I tell you what, every professionally speaking, every single time that I've had my worst professional experience, it was actually the silver lining was tremendous growth. I remember when my very first company was terminated from its one and only subcontract. Well, that was the kick in the rear end that I needed to start pursuing other, more contracts more aggressively and start pursuing prime contracts where, I controlled my own destiny. So that was the catalyst. Every single time I've been fired from an organization, my contract has been terminated, I have leveraged that for success. And, that's the way I would look at this thing. If you're being forced out of the federal government, leverage that to be a game changer for you, because the knowledge that you have would give you such an incredible advantage in the FedGov contracting, world. It's not even funny.
Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, now is the time.
That's right.
This is a great episode. We recorded this in vertical. If you enjoy this, if you prefer this, please leave something in the comments. Let us know. I look forward to speaking again next week. Awesome conversation.
Talk to you soon.